Coming up, a Sad Styles production. Get into it!
Thanks for coming in and answering the Help Wanted ad that we just put up. Very much appreciated. Did you have any questions?
Yeah. Like, what are the hours like? You know,
the hours are okay. So it is night shift.
Oh, night shift.
It is night shift.
That's fine.
I'll say that. But the one thing as well, and
sure.
I'm sure you know this if you're applying for a securities job at a Chuck E. Cheese type restaurant,
right? Yeah.
Is that at night the animals do come alive and they will attack you. At night, the night shift, the animatronics will come to life and they will try to.
Okay, I quit. Sorry, I quit.
No, but I was just.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the interest. Thank you very much. I quit.
Okay, I understand what's happening. You haven't let me finish my spiel because there's a lot of benefits to working here. Okay. I know you know that.
Yeah, but the first thing you're going to say is the animatronics come alive and try and kill me?
So that is the first thing.
I quit.
Okay, I see where you're coming from, but you haven't.
I can help you. Do you want me to put the Help Wanted sign back up in the window? Here, I can give it to me.
Okay, how about this?
Okay.
My final pitch to you.
Yeah.
And all my cards on the table.
Sure.
You know the salary.
Please.
This last little bit of information.
Yes.
I think you're not going to want to grab this sign from my hand.
Why is that?
If you don't like it, you can take this, okay? So here it is.
Okay.
Yes. At night, the animatronics will come to life and they'll try to kill you.
Okay, I quit.
But on Fridays.
Yeah.
Pizza party.
Oh, okay. Two things. I quit and fuck you.
Okay. He didn't take the sign. Hey, listen, on your way out, instead of putting up the sign, can you just check out Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted this week on the Retrograde podcast?
Welcome to the Retrograde
podcast, where we remind you what you used to love and whether or not you still should.
I'm Andrew Bascom, and with me as always is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself,
Mikey Fazbear. Yeah, hell yeah. Well, it's Freddy Fazbear.
Absolutely, Freddy Fazbear, of course, the main character, other than us, the protagonist of the real story of Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, the game that we're going to be doing this week on RetroGrave.
Interesting, Andy.
Andy?
I always call you Andy.
Yeah,
Some
very
of
casual.
Our listeners do call you Andy, I think because of your Retrograde Andy tag.
I know, which is so funny. It's never been in my life that anyone's called me Andy, and now people are like, little Dicky Andy. You're like, cool.
Yeah, where did they get that from?
Yeah, pieces of shit.
Yeah, I have no idea. But we are going to be taking a look this week at Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. There's an interesting little bit of information. I'm not sure if you know this,
Andrew. I might not know.
But if you're watching this over on YouTube, you can see my hair's a little bit messy.
Oh.
I've got what I like to call VR hair. Because I had the VR headset on and it kind of messed everything up. This game is in VR.
This is a first in Retrograde history. We are doing a VR game.
The very first time we're doing this.
And we're doing it for a scary game during Retrograve.
We talked about this at the beginning, even before the beginning of Retrograve.
Yes.
The scariest month of all time.
Very scary.
We knew we were going to do scary games. And by the way, we had a lot of requests for some really well-curated scary games that would kind of fit the theme of our podcast a little bit better. And I won't say them specifically because I think we'll do them later on, but they were basically like the cornerstones of the survival horror genre, horror genre in general. And we thought about doing them, but we figured our listeners during this month really like to see us scared. Yeah. So we're going to put those on hold a little bit. If you put some of those requests out there, we're going to put them on ice. Just like I would rather be than playing this game. We're going to play the scariest of all. You know, last week we did Poppy Playtime. The week prior to that, we did The Mortuary Assistant. The week prior to that, we did Slender, The Arrival. And coming
8 pages.
Slender 8 pages. The Arrival is the new one. Coming off of what a lot of people expected to be our first week of Retrograve in October, which ended up being the Mortal Kombat. Anniversary, people thought we were chickening out.
Really?
They did.
Well, okay, they have every reason to, because one month we straight up forgot about February. 1 year, we just straight up forgot February existed. I think we got to March and went, uh-oh. Wait, but so fair enough, but we couldn't ignore Mortal Kombat, one of the granddaddies of them all. And so, of course, we're still doing our 4 games. Don't you worry.
Yep.
You keep your little scaredy pants on.
Even though it's no longer October. In fact, as of today, Halloween is over.
This is over.
But
it's All Saints Day today.
It's All Saints Day. Yeah. That means you got to go to your mall, get yourself a nice leather jacket.
Of course, we're talking about the All Saints, the pop band from the late 90s.
Right. Yes, of course. Yeah. Listen, actually, if you're new to this podcast, and we've had a lot of new listeners as a result of the Retrograve, it turns out that people, almost more than retro gaming, like to see us get our pants scared off of us.
Yes.
So if you're new to this podcast, first of all, thanks for listening. Secondly, typically what we do on the podcast is take a look back at the games that we used to play when we were kids. Usually it's something we had an affinity towards one way or another. We rate and review the game out of 4 bits based on our memory of the game when we played it growing up. Then we actually play the game. We play the videos over on YouTube, and then we come back and rate and review the game out of 4 bits once again, based on how the game holds up in the modern day against the likes of modern games.
Right.
It's a great concept.
It's a great
which
concept.
we throw out the window this month.
Goodbye, concept.
Because instead we rate and review the games out of 2 different qualifying factors.
And what would those be?
How good is the game
Oh,
out
that's
of
a good
4
one.
bits?
Yeah.
2, how scary is the game out of 4 bits? And those 2 things can sometimes be at odds.
Yeah, they really can.
And we thought, as a little bit of context, back when we did the original Five Nights at Freddy's on this podcast a few years back on RetroGrave, that the game Five Nights at Freddy's #1 was somewhat disappointing, right?
I was going to say, when we recorded what you've heard as last week's episode,
Yeah.
we actually had made a couple of cracks at Five Nights at Freddy's.
Right.
Saying like, well, it's not Five Nights at Freddy's because it actually changed and there was scariness and stuff like that, without knowing that next week we'd be doing one of its sequels.
Yes.
Almost teasing it to be like, oh, I'll show you.
Yeah, and it turns out that for people who are in the know with the Freddy's franchise,
Yes.
This one, number 8, and we'll get into some details on the game in a little bit, is kind of the best one in the series. A lot of people think.
Really?
Yeah, it's sort of like the accumulation of everything the franchise has learned up to this point in time. Critically, it was the most well received, and we'll go through some of that in more detail in a little bit. Before we do that, let's take a little bit of a break to talk general games for a second. Let's
games.
cleanse our palate. For general games.
General games, reporting for duty.
Have you had any chances to play some more games? Because as you answer this question,
Okay.
I'm thinking about what my answer is going to be.
Yes. You
And
turn off your ears for a bit until I look at you and go, Mikey, what do you think? And you're like, oh,
what
my
I
time
think,
to
Andrew,
talk.
thanks so much for saying that. Wow, you didn't really take much time to talk about your games.
You know, I will say, actually, I don't need to say too much because it has been the tight rotation of games that I've been talking about for a bit here. I played a little Valhalla, so I'm moving that along slowly.
Have you learned about the jump button yet?
No, I think you're pulling my leg, and I don't like that. I don't appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You know what? That kind of attitude,
Yeah.
go keep playing your game without jumping around.
And I will. Thank you.
All right.
NBA 2K23, obviously really, really good.
Now, have you found the jump button in that game?
No, stop with this jump button nonsense.
You know you can do that in
No,
video
set
games.
shots for me from here on out. I play like it's 1934. Jump shot. Get out of here. That's really good. Obviously, I played a little bit of Overwatch 2 as I've been, want to do, but not as much as I'd originally thought, I think. So it's a tight rotation of games. I'm waiting for a few other ones to come out. I've looked at some pre-orders. I'll talk about that probably
okay.
in the next couple of weeks.
Interesting. Yeah, there are a couple games on my upcoming list that I'm a little bit excited for. But before I get into that, I have been making my way through Elden Ring more consistently.
Really?
I'm still spending some time with it.
wow.
I'm really enjoying my time with it.
I thought that was as dead as RetroGrave.
Nothing could be as dead as, well, actually it's reanimated, so it kind of is as dead as
yeah, very
Retrograde. Exactly. No, still loving that. I don't need to get too much into that. I will kind of save my Elden Ring conversations until I'm finished the game, if ever, 2025, or something crazy happens in it. But no, the game that I have been playing a little bit more of, kind of in spite of myself, is Overwatch 2.
Is this supposed to be a surprise of some capacity?
The fact that I've been playing, no. But my thoughts on it, maybe.
Oh, interesting. Elaborate on your thoughts.
I would love to, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
While I do that, can you go grab me a coffee?
I will. I'll be right back.
Okay, thanks so much.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, you're still.
Jesus Christ. Okay. I guess
There he goes. Andrew, can you come back here for a sec? I'm lonely.
Yeah.
Oh, there he goes. He's back. He's back.
I'm back, everybody.
Because I want to hear you. I want you to hear what I have to say about this as well. Because eventually we're gonna have to talk about it. I finished my placements for Overwatch 2.
For your competitive,
for my competitive placements.
Which positions or what are they called?
Just support.
Classes.
Just support. I haven't tried anything else.
Not tank, eh?
No, the queue times are just too much. Like I still have to play. I usually only have time to play like 2 to 3 matches max per session. Okay. So I can't risk queuing up for 10 minutes and eliminating one of those, the abilities I have to play one of those games, right? Like 2 10-minute queue times is basically like a full game. So I'm like, you know what? I'll stick to support. I'll finish those placement matches. I did. I've said this on the podcast before. I was up around Diamond in Overwatch 1 consistently.
Which is quite good if you don't play Overwatch.
It's I think on the higher end of casual, but in terms of like people who play, it's considered very low. Because there's Diamond, and there's Masters, there's Grandmasters, there's top 500, whatever. So, but I was comfortable there. I felt like it was around my play style. I placed Gold 5, which is I think the lowest of gold tiers.
Right.
Now, one thing that really bums me out about this is I was on a winning streak of 4 games. Then I DC'd from a game, the server crashed. Then the next game DC'd again. And then the next game I played, I was with imbeciles. And I don't know if the game was just really trying to gauge where I was at. It counted those 2 DCs as losses, and I was just like down in the basement somewhere.
Yeah.
But every game I played from then on just felt different, like icky. And I'm like, I'm not playing with good people right now. And I saw the writings on the wall, and I knew where I was going to end up. The problem I have so much with this game, and maybe you feel the same way, they made the change to have 1 tank.
Yeah.
Right? And they made the change to reduce the number of barriers and the amount of CC, crowd control, like stuns, shield bashes, that sort of thing. Freezing, all that. All good moves. But I think maybe they went a little bit too far in only allowing for 1 tank, because now it feels like such a coin flip. Most matches are determined by, is the tank on my team competent?
Yep.
Because if not, and the other tank is, that's the match.
Yep.
There's no saving it at that point. At least, like, I'm not good enough to carry as a support my way through the entire rankings if the main player on the team, which is the tank now, isn't holding their way. Did you find something similar?
I do, and I actually think it rewards, because now one of the healers has to just pocket the tank.
Yes.
Has to be right beside them all the time.
Yeah.
And so, like, as DPS, you're probably just not getting a ton of healing anymore. And that's, like, understandable, to be honest.
Sure.
And I will say it honestly rewards aggressive tanks now.
Yes.
Tanks that are, like, driving the team, that's the one that you're going to win every time.
100%.
And also, they made a few changes to some tanks that, like, have really benefited,
Yep.
you know? And, like, Roadhog's still very strong, Reinhardt's still very strong, but Orisa, holy God.
It's funny. We talked about this actually over on our Patreon, patreon.com/Retrograde podcast. We did a full, it was like an hour and a bit breakdown of our initial impressions of the game. It's still over there, and still a lot of our thoughts apply. But one of the things that I mentioned is the difference between kind of like casual play and professional play.
Yeah.
Like Orisa and Hog are almost unusable at some facets of the higher play, but they're still so dominant in lower levels of play. Orisa especially.
Yeah.
And again, it's fine. I don't think the game needs to be meta specific regardless of which tier that you're playing, but I think in general it just speaks to how dominant the tank role can be.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I'm playing these games at Gold 5, the reason I bring all this up, it's not
Gold
to say
5. I'm
Gold
sorry,
5.
that just sounds like a club or something like that. Like,
well, it is.
I was at Gold 5.
I'm at Gold 5, baby.
Sounds like a hotel change or something like that. Like,
Ooh.
here at Gold 5, we here to give you the best, customer service possible. A warm towel at the end of the night, fresh brew of coffee in the morning.
But no bed.
No bed.
Just a warm towel.
You're on your own. But at Gold 5, we don't believe in beds.
We don't believe
like
in
they're
beds.
angels or something like that. We don't believe in beds, and neither should you.
If you can't float, we don't want you here.
Beds are for the weak.
Beds are for the weak.
Yeah.
Just like my teammates in the Gold 5 range.
Are you still playing Ana mostly?
Mainly Ana, a lot of Kiriko. She's been put to the
she
main
has.
stage. I really like her.
I have
She's
not
the
even
new-
tried
the
her.
new
I do
hero.
not understand anything about it.
She's great.
I don't understand how it works.
She's complicated.
What does her special do?
It's basically, it makes this like a hallway.
Yeah.
That everyone moves faster, shoots faster, and has limited their cooldowns are limited.
So if I'm in that box,
If you're in that box, it's really neat. It's
Okay.
it's a good one.
right.
But just in general, I feel so helpless, and like so much more of my game depends on the coin flip of what my teammates are like. In a somewhat higher rank, I always felt like everyone was playing to a base level of understanding of where they should be. So there was a certain amount of predictability that allowed me to set up in a place that I was comfortable with. And I just feel like that's kind of completely gone now.
Yeah,
and it's disappointing. And I'm finding myself playing Overwatch 2 almost in spite of myself. Like I said, like I'm not enjoying it. And I'm now finding if I have a free half an hour or something, I'm like, I don't know if I want to play it. Like it's kind of pushed me away from the game.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I totally get the queue times and waiting around and then whatever. And I also find that the people quitting has never been higher.
Oh, really? I haven't really noticed much of that.
Oh my God. I there was a stretch where I went 5 games in a row. Somebody quit.
No
every game.
way.
I was
Really?
like, well, they have to figure out some kind of punishment.
Yeah.
They have to find a way to incentivize
and a
people.
lessened penalty for your team.
Exactly. It's not my fault he left.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I don't know.
tough.
It's been, I don't know. I don't want to say underwhelming because I don't even know that. It's just a different experience. And it's one that I guess will take some time getting used to.
Yeah, I'm not ready to throw it out just yet. I think it needs another few months to simmer and let everyone get used to the new play style and the new 5v5 matchup. But like for now, I'm almost just kind of want to step back from it and come back to it when it's kind of been figured out because I'm just not really enjoying it that much right now.
You got to work on you for a bit.
And you know what? That's what my therapist has been saying. And I keep, like, I get where they're coming from, but I keep saying, "Oh, fuck you!"
Right?
I pay you.
That's what you say out loud.
Yeah. Can you believe it? I go to them.
Right.
I'm not going to say it in my head. I'm not crazy.
Right.
I don't go to a therapist because I'm crazy.
Okay.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah. No. Whoa! I didn't say anything. Holy shit. Yeah. I didn't say anything.
I heard you say.
No. Oh, what?
I can read minds, Andrew.
Right. ESPN.
ESPN. Exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So let's table our discussion on Overwatch for a little bit. I want to get.
I'm sure we'll only talk about it, 26 more times till the end of the
and
year.
maybe more on the Patreon as well. But I want to talk about Andrew. You mentioned some pre-orders that you had, and I think that might get us into a discussion that I wanted to have with you. First of all, some pre-orders that you wanted to make. You want to go through some of them?
Yes. And now I'm struggling to remember them. They exist, and I did them.
You're not crazy.
No, I am not, and I'm not lying.
It's not God of War.
It's God of War.
Is it actually?
Yeah, it's God of War.
I knew you were going to do it eventually.
I know. I'm such a suck. I say one thing and I do another. I'm the worst, man. Like, if you can hear my voice, don't trust me. I'll hurt you.
And he has, and he will.
God of War, and then there's another one too, and I'll think of it as we go. But I'm just, the thing is, I really just want some stuff to look forward to.
Yes.
I think, just across mediums right now. Television, been amazing. There's amazing television all over the time. It feels like there's 12 shows on the go all the time. Yeah, that's a good show. Yeah, well, that's a good show. There's a few movies for the end of the year. I'm really excited for Black Panther. That's coming out in like a week.
Yep.
From when you're listening to this. I want some stuff to look forward to. And pre-orders, unfortunately, even though you and I have put our flag down here and said pre-orders are bad, you don't need to do it.
Yeah.
You don't really. It says it's not very incentivized to do it.
Yeah.
And yet it gives me something to look forward to.
I get that. I pre-ordered a book the other day.
What?
Yeah, as of prior to this episode releasing, Cormac McCarthy's new book.
I know. I heard that he has a new book.
And I've been waiting 10 plus years for it. So I was really excited for it. But the idea of putting a pin in the calendar and just saying or circling a date and you're like, that day I'm looking forward to. That's what the pre-orders are for.
Do we like Christmas because we like Christmas? Or is it because you have 2 months of anticipation going up to something?
Honestly, ask me on December 25th. I'll say it's because of the 2 months of anticipation.
100%. Then ask on December 26th and you're like, life is meaningless.
Well, ask me any day and that could be the answer.
Sorry, you pre-ordered what?
A book by Cormac McCarthy. Oh, Andrew.
I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to make you.
I know. I don't like that.
I almost missed the fact that I said it.
Yeah, we said it a bunch, and I was wondering, like, why is my stomach so upset?
Why is my stomach so upset?
It's because we were talking. I'm not gonna do. No, don't. We can't talk about it anymore. No, don't. We're just not going to talk about Cormac McCarthy.
He's the author.
Oh God, he writes words. Okay. Oh God, back to video games. Jesus.
Show them. Someone should take the words that are on the page.
I'm crying.
And act them out and film them for me.
See, now that would be great.
That should be a thing.
Small screen.
The screen should be made out of silver.
My phone, just like Martin Scorsese wants it to do.
That's all we want.
Yeah.
Show us all the good things.
I was a little bad boy watching Tenet on my phone. waiting for like a red dot around my head to be like, take the shot.
So I wanted to talk about the pre-orders because there are a couple games coming up, especially that have just been announced. There was a lot of success seen by Capcom in remaking their games like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, reimagining the games in the new perspective, the Resident Evil 4 over-the-shoulder style perspective, so much so that they are now also remaking Resident Evil 4 in the same perspective, which kind of defeats the purpose of the other remakes. Yeah. But Silent Hill came out with all of their new games in the remake of Silent Hill 2.
See, that one, we did Silent Hill on the podcast.
Yes.
That one makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
I would be very excited to play that game.
I'm That may be one that I go and play. I'd be curious to see the perspective that they choose. Are they going to try to go like a Resident Evil thing? That element of like, it's been 20 plus years. It's been 20 plus years, and the perspective of games have changed. The vocabulary of gaming has changed. If you're trying to imbue an old game with newer controls, newer graphics, and basically make it a new experience, I'm all for it. But I was curious, what is your perspective on remakes? Because I know we've kind of talked about it, but I seem to always be the one that wants to play the remakes.
You do.
Resident Evil 2, Demon Souls was a remake that I absolutely loved. The Resident Evil 4 remake I'm really looking forward to. Resident Evil 8 is being Ocho Cinco, is essentially being remade, or at least given a third person perspective to give another way to play the game. Excited for that. Remakes in your world, anything that you're ever excited about?
Well, you know, it's so funny. No, because there's like remastered editions.
Sure.
There's a lot of those that I have always been a sucker for. Like, oh, the graphics got 2% better. I'll buy it. You know, like I own so many versions of BioShock. It's insane.
That's true.
It's our new version of like, you know, I owned The Godfather on VHS, and then DVD, now digital.
The Criterion Collection.
100%. Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's 10 more minutes cut into it. Like, I'll watch it. And then you watch it and you're like, yeah, I get why they cut it.
It's not as good.
Yeah, like, oh, it's a weird backstory I didn't need to know about. But yeah, so those versions, which I think are separate. I think remasters are separate than remakes. Remakes is, you know, really changing the engine in which drove it. It might be the story, and it might be, you know, relatively the same touchings, but everything else about it is different. And to be honest, all the things that have been remade are not things that I've usually had a ton of affinity towards, except for Tony Hawk.
Oh,
and Tony Hawk,
you fucking loved that
and
one.
I loved it. It is easily one of my favorite gaming experiences the last couple of years. It was just like a warm blanket because it was the right spirit of a remake. It was still all the things like the music and, you know, the same levels and the same skaters. And then they didn't shoehorn it in. They just said, but there's also some new stuff if you want it. And you're like, perfect, love it. That might get me back into the genre of gaming that that a lot of people have left behind, but it still made me feel like I was playing the old game.
I like that. So let's try to figure this out.
Okay.
Let's get granular on this.
What are we figuring out?
When a remake is warranted.
Okay.
What makes it good, what a remake needs in order to get our attention. And we'll use some examples, I guess, and we'll just kind of go down the line and give our thoughts on it. So the one that really got everyone talking recently was The Last of Us remake, which was already remastered at one point. And at this point, I don't know why they're calling it one thing or another.
Right.
Because it seems like they are using that term fairly loosely.
Did
that warrant a new one yet?
See, in my mind, no. But this is also the rapid passing of time now that I'm becoming older.
Sure.
Where I went, that game came out like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're like, it was 8 years ago. I'm like, it was what now? And I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of a...
But The Last of Us already had the remaster.
I agree. But isn't this semantics? Like the difference between remaster and remake in this one?
A little bit. Although it did seem like it was an entirely new engine, the remake was, or was at least trying to be.
Right.
It was more, it seemed as though the combat had changed slightly to be more like The Last of Us Part 2. This is just a weird one because there are so many ways that you can play the game from the original release until now, some of which have already bridged the gap of time and fixed some of the issues.
But isn't like part of the thing that we should not be surprised at is we will see more remakes, especially now because there's new generation console.
Sure.
Console generation that is now switched over. And so a lot of people will be like, well, we're not going to make a new one for another 5 years. What if we give them a remaster so we can, you know, try and turn a profit and upgrade it for the new console? Let's try and believe that they don't have completely, you know, like they have some earnest intention with actually trying to improve the game. But otherwise it's to also make money.
Yeah, of course it's going to make money.
Yeah.
And here's one thing I'll say. If you've commissioned a third-party developer to do it, and it's not Naughty Dog doing it themselves, maybe they're just overseeing it.
It's Polite Puppy.
It's what?
Polite Puppy.
Polite Puppy. Yeah, not Naughty Dog. Polite Puppy is my favorite game development company. And it frees up Naughty Dog to do something else. I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I look at Capcom and they remade Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3. They're now remaking Resident Evil 4. But in the meantime, they got the third-person perspective in Resident Evil Village, and they're probably working on some new things as well. It's not getting in the way of new releases. I guess I have to be okay with that because who is it hurting? But it doesn't always seem to be warranted. Silent Hill 2, you know, we haven't really seen what that's going to be like, the Silent Hill remake. We'll take a look and maybe it'll be great. Who knows? But let's look at something then like Resident Evil 2, the one that we made, the one that we played early on in this podcast. That feels like the best case scenario,
Absolutely.
Right? It's a game that was highly beloved, a perspective that has aged poorly, controls that have aged poorly, and it's basically revamped it to match the controls and the flow of one of the most successful games in the franchise. It's like if we could have made Resident Evil 2 like from scratch right now, this is the way we would have done it, not with the fixed cameras, not with the take controls. That seems like if you ever want to do that with a game, I'm always okay with it.
See, and that's the thing is like, I hate to say it, but we're really good arbitrators for this because essentially, in my mind, what deserves a remake at this point? Well, if I go back and you tell me this game is amazing, this is one of the most legendary games of all time, no matter the time when it was made, right? This is so good. And if we go back playing now, knowing everything we know, and it doesn't hold up in any way, you're like, whoa, what the hell is wrong with this game? Remake time. Let's go. Let's bring it back into the new generation so that people can enjoy it for what it was and why people enjoyed it.
Or what it was intended to be. Because here's the sweet spot is if you play a game that has been remade, it should feel like you thought it felt when you first played it.
Very good.
Because going back and playing an old game, we always talk about this. The controls are a bit more stiff. The pacing is always a bit more slow.
Yes.
But we remember it being fast. Mortal Kombat being one of the first ones that we realized that with, where we're like, this game is so slow, but I remember it being fast. Sonic even being similar to that. If you remake it and give it the speed that it was intended to have when it first came out, but technologically it was limited, that's always that I'm okay with. There are some other examples like here's the thing. We're okay with Resident Evil 2 being remade and Resident Evil 3 being remade.
Yeah.
What about Resident Evil 4 being remade the way that it is? Because of course they do number 2, they do number 3. Number 4 is next in line.
Yeah.
Because number 1 was remade on the GameCube, slightly different. Maybe that would have warranted a good one. But Resident Evil 4, I should be super excited about that. That's one of my favorite games of all time.
Right.
But here's what I'm confused about.
Please.
Resident Evil 2 was remade to be like Resident Evil 4 because that is like the pinnacle of controls of a survival horror game nowadays. Controls, camera angle, graphics, all that stuff. Resident Evil 4 to be remade, that to me is almost more of a remaster.
Right.
It's a new coat of paint. How different is the game going to be? I don't know. It looks like the same thing, but with shiny new graphics.
Right.
That feels almost like a little bit of a waste. I'll probably still end up playing it.
Oh, there we go.
But that's where you end up finding yourself maybe struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
Do we need to remake every game, or is it okay that some games just exist as they were? We're not refilming The Godfather.
Well, but I'm glad we brought that up because that has been an issue with movies for the last 30 years.
Sure.
They remake everything.
Yes.
Do we need to remake this?
Right.
Well, the answer is no, most likely. And there's so many bad remakes with like Total Recall.
Oh,
you know what
yeah,
I mean? Like,
yeah.
Did we really need Total Recall? Like, what were we missing in the original that we can't get now? You know what I mean? Or, like, oh man, The Thing. The Thing, which was essentially, there's a spiritual successor, which is also called The Thing. And it kind of like retells the story, but also like opens it up. And you're like, no, what's wrong with the original? I think it's a little different when it comes to video games. And I think it will be also when it comes to movies that they're starting to use more CG.
Yeah.
And as we're getting further away from that in the early 90s and like really rough CG.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so if we could get better at that, maybe do the George Lucas technique. You just kind of improve the CG, but everything else stays the same.
Sure.
But I think video games are tough because you have the control over that. And if you want to enjoy it, it really actually will stop you from enjoying the thing where you're doing. Whereas we can go back and watch old movies and you're like, that's okay. I'm totally okay with this. I understand.
Watching something in black and white is different than a mechanical limitation in the controls or
100%.
cameras. Because that is the language of gaming has changed. Yes. And the farther away we get from like retro gaming and difficulty being scaled towards poor controls. We experience that all the time. That, maybe things do need to be remade, but from an historic standpoint, as we move more towards the digital mediums and the lack of physical releases, what happens if every update or every remaster just erases the original and the original is no longer there? How do we go back and find these things?
You're talking about Overwatch 2, right?
That's a great example. How do you go and play Overwatch 1 right now?
Yeah.
You just can't do it. You can't do it.
No, when I put in the disc for Overwatch 1, it takes me to Overwatch 2.
Right.
It's weird. It's gone forever.
It's gone.
I think about this. I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, but this is something I've been thinking about a lot, where it's like especially, us and the generation just behind us, a large part of our memories are going to be disappeared forever.
Yes. Yeah.
Because none of them are material. Our experiences with early internet, and only some of it got archived. A lot of it's gone forever.
Yeah.
And I thought about it even in a weird way when we were talking about Overwatch. It's just gone. You can't play it again. And maybe Blizzard will be like, so nice to give give us like Overwatch 1 for a week or something like that. And it's going to be weird. It's going to be whatever. But I think about that with Fortnite because I was thinking about this. The island changes all the time.
Yes.
And I was thinking about this place I used to drop down all the time. And I was thinking like, oh, I love that docks. And I was like, they haven't been around for a couple of years. Oh, I'm never going to be able to go back there.
Right.
And I was like, and it weirdly nostalgic for something I don't care that much about.
It is strange, though.
It is weird because as humans, there's a finality to it
Yeah.
that we just cannot comprehend.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you will never be able to do that again. It's
Yeah.
like, what?
It exists somewhere. But
Sure.
all that does is allow for the monetization of that thing 10 years from now. When Blizzard is like, hey, we're selling Overwatch 1. And I hold up my game disc on the Xbox One, and I'm just like, "Hey, I have it." And they say, "No, not like that. You're gonna have to rebuy it from us." And
But is it okay? So the reason Overwatch 1, Fortnite, and I would assume there's a Modern Warfare, some Call of Duty, or something like that. These are all because they live online. You need other players online to play this game, right? I wonder when it's ever gonna happen to a game that like doesn't need that. Like I don't know. Let's say like God of War, okay, something like that. 30 years, the God of War that's coming out this year.
Yeah.
Even though you don't need anybody else and you have a physical disc, but the server shut down into a way that you can never play it, no matter what.
I'm sure that's happened before.
Yeah.
I can't think of a specific example, but playing online is always, you can't play online in certain Halo games now. The servers have been shut down. Sorry, there's no way you can go back to it. But hopefully there will never come a time where you can't put a physical disc into the original console and play it.
Yeah.
I remember when Half-Life 2 came out, that was a big issue with it, was that I'm pretty sure it was Half-Life 2. You had to be online in order to play the game, even though you weren't online. And it was this weird thing of like, that was one of the first times that had happened. I think it was an early experiment of DRM to make sure you weren't pirating the game. Made it difficult to do it, but it also meant that like without an internet connection, you couldn't play it. So like if you have the original Half-Life 2 and an old computer, maybe you can, maybe you can't play it. I don't know. That's a poor example because I know they've been updated and that's been kind of patched. But like, there have to be examples of
there
that.
is, and it's just a bigger thing too. I don't know how we got on this trade, but it's like that like we don't own anything anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you'll rent something from the Apple Store or YouTube or whatever the Google thing is. You can even buy it, but you never own it.
You know what? Maybe my least favorite people on this planet. Not even
pick one. I don't know.
Make
like
a joke here.
Yeah, top 10.
Yeah, top 10. Like, let's go from top to bottom. No, are the people who, when you say that, you're like, I can't believe I don't own this, and they say, yeah, didn't you read the licensing agreement?
Oh, get
and it's
fucked.
like, it's not about the fact that it's in the licensing agreement.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it's not the fact that I didn't know it was there. It's the fact that that's in the licensing agreement.
I was gonna say, it's not like I read the licensing agreement. I put down my Homer Simpson half style glass. And I go, well, no, never mind. It was in there. I'm the idiot. It was wrong. It's the concept. It's the concept that's not good.
Yeah, it's crazy. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring up this whole concept of remakes and get into this conversation is Joe Griffin, a listener of the podcast, at Hey I'm Joe Griffin on Twitter.
That's perfect.
It's perfect.
What a perfect name.
Great handle.
Hey, I'm Joe Griffin.
Hey,
I'm
Joe Griffin.
Hey, Joe.
Peter's brother, by the way.
I'm sure he's never heard that before.
No, he hasn't. And that's why he listens to the RetroGrave podcast. But no, he wanted to get our thoughts on the Resident Evil remakes and had some thoughts of his own. He says, honestly, when we were talking about some of the remakes that we did want to see, he says, honestly, I was hoping for a remake of Resident Evil Code Veronica, which was a great game. He says, which was a solid game that could benefit from a next-gen remake before 4. I agree with that. With 4, I'm excited for a scarier atmosphere, more enemies because of the tech now and an expansion of the locations and added story elements. I totally agree with you. I'm not expecting much of a change on how the gameplay feels or operates. With 2 and 3, I liked that the main side characters had more development. They changed things around location and events-wise where it was no longer predictable. It's not the game I wanted remade first, but as he's talking about Resident Evil 4, but as a huge fan of 2's remake, and what that team added in atmosphere, added story elements and scenarios, and hell, even the sound design, which I think was... think this newer series does great, and voice acting, I'm feeling optimistic about it. And ultimately, I think he's absolutely correct.
Right.
They're just going to beef it up, and it's an experience that I'm excited to play. I do think there are other games that they could have remade first, and I think there's a big clamoring for Resident Evil Code Veronica out there as well. But 4 will be good. And as much as I say I don't know that we needed it, I'm gonna fucking play it, and I'm excited to play it. So
this is the problem. This is the problem with this argument. I don't know if we need it. Like, here's $70.
Here's $70. And a lot of people have been saying, I don't know if we need it, but here's my $5, $10, $15, $20, $25, who knows, for 5 Nights at Freddy's. Every iteration, this game sells a ton of games, and I think it's about time we shift the focus specifically to 5 Nights at Freddy's. Now, as I mentioned, Andrew, this was it's a VR game. We're going to be playing in VR. Have you ever played a scary VR game?
No, I've never played a scary VR game.
So here's one of the reasons, neither have I.
Oh, good.
And one of the reasons why we chose Five Nights at Freddy's, A, it's one of the most highly reviewed, best-selling VR games in the horror genre out there. B, I have a Quest 2. I love the Quest 2. But it still makes me outrageously motion sick when I have to move in it. My brain is not geared towards understanding that I'm not moving while seeing moving visions there. We've played games on this podcast, especially like some early N64 first-person shooters like GoldenEye.
Yes.
Or A Dog's Life was another one.
Dog's Life.
Where we've had to take breaks after the gameplay portion because we're feeling so nauseous.
I know, I can feel myself sweating.
100%.
I was like, oh God, I'm going to be sick.
And the first time I played Resident Evil 4 in VR, I was feeling very brave. And I was like, you know what? I'll put on the full movement. I can handle it. First thing, I almost fell over when I started moving. I felt like I was 90 years old. Secondly, it was unbelievable for 15 minutes, and then I was sick for 3 days. I had a headache for 3 days. So we chose a game where you're stationary for the most part, and I think that we'll probably feel a little bit better by doing that. But in order to set this up, I said this already about Mortuary Assistant and Poppy Playtime from the past couple weeks, but like while I'm calibrating the audio and the video in these games, I have to play through some of them. And it's scary because I'm worried. I'm like, how soon do these pop-out scares happen? Well, in Five Nights at Freddy's, pretty quickly.
Oh no!
So I had the headset on, and I'm kind of like, it's on, and I'm looking at the screen to make sure
it's got like half on, half off.
Yeah, half on, just kind of looking at OBS so it's recording properly. I'm like, okay, everything's good. And I'm having some issues with the recording, so I take the headset off and I move to another place in my condo closer to the router, and I put the headset back on, and as it's booting up, I hear doo, 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 doo. And then as soon as it turns on, something fucking jumps out right at me, and it scared the shit out of me. I wasn't expecting it. And then the next time I take my headset, it's like it knew that I was fucking around, and every time I put the headset back on, it was geared towards a scare. And it, Andrew, fucking sucks. It sucks so bad.
This sucks. This is a big day.
It is
Retrograde doing VR. It was inevitable. You people asked for it. Here we are. And if the last couple weeks weren't bad enough, Mortuary Assistant, Poppy's Playtime, Slender, they're all pretty rough. You can watch those gameplay. Go back and listen to us. You hear us scream at the top of our lungs. Yeah. It is only going to get worse now that we're immersed in this world.
It is. You know what? When we were playing Mortuary Assistant and Poppy Playtime, there was a tactic that I learned where I could turn around to talk to you because that's good broadcasting, but also it broke the illusion.
Yes.
I wasn't looking at the screen. It really pulled me out of it. There is none of that in VR.
You did it so much in Mortuary Assistant. At one point I went, stop looking at me.
Yes.
Like, I was like, what the hell are you looking at?
I thought I was being so sly.
This one is brutal because we're going to have to just play in short strokes just because it is so scary. You know, we played the first Five Nights at Freddy's. We did this a couple years ago, like Mikey said. And while it was like Slender in a lot of ways, where you're like, scary. And then you went, oh, okay. And then once you figured out what's going on, you're like, okay, it's less scary now. Whereas I think Mortuary Assistant and Poppy's Playtime were scary consistently.
Yes.
This obviously is number of sequels later, and you worry that they've learned. They've gotten smarter. It's going to be more consistent and more thorough. And now we're in fucking VR.
And immersed, because here's the other thing is, you know how we always talk about the reason scary games suck is because when you're scared, that's when it demands your attention.
Yes.
It's not like a movie, you can't look away from the screen. Well, when you're playing a video game, there's at least another break where you can either turn your head away for a little bit, or there's a distance between you and the game because you're holding a controller. In the VR experience, you're even further immersed, not only because you can't really look away, you're in the world, but in order to interact with the world, you need to reach out and touch it. It's not controlling. This isn't my safe space where I'm holding a controller anymore. It's an actual like interaction with the scary things out there. I've been dreading this so much. I was so disappointed when I got it working.
Okay, you have to say that. When we in our famous Slash channel that we always talk about, Mikey did say, he goes, hey man, bad news. I got it to work.
And so we'll see how it goes. Who knows how long we're going to be able to do, but it'll be over on the YouTube, so you can go check it out there. As we mentioned during RetroGrave, all the YouTube videos of the gameplay are going to be up there day one, so you can watch it without joining the Patreon. But we'd appreciate it if you went over and checked the Patreon as well. We're still doing all our bonus episodes over there. So Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, aka Five Nights at Freddy's 8, came out in May of 2019. Windows, Switch, iOS, Android, PlayStation, etc., on a lot of the consoles. It was not VR. This one is VR. Obviously,
Was it made for VR?
I think it was made with that intention.
Okay.
So obviously, Scott Games was the producer and developer of Five Nights at Freddy's. We talked about it in the original episode. Scott, that's not his last name.
Oh, okay.
Andrew, come on.
I thought it was.
I know we like to be silly on this podcast.
Yeah.
But that's a low blow.
Really?
It's a low blow.
Okay. Next, you're going to tell me the actor Rip Torn. That's not his real name.
I could tell you that.
Don't.
Would that make you feel better?
No, I need to wake up tomorrow, man.
It's not real. Most actors don't use their real name.
What?
Yeah. Charlie Chaplin, do you know what his name was?
What's his name?
Tom Cruise.
What?
He really hasn't aged very much.
No, he hasn't.
He hasn't.
It's like a Keanu Reeves thing where they find paintings of him looking like he was from the medieval times and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, he's a vampire.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Honestly, no. He also seems like he has perspective of somebody who's lived a very long time.
Yeah, it seems like it. Or lived the life of someone with a lot of money and freedom.
That's also perspective's hilarious like that. Yeah.
So it was Scott Cawthorn is his actual last name of Scott Games. This was the first of the Five Nights at Freddy's games that he kind of licensed out to a new company. It was developed by Steelwood Studios, and they kind of pitched him on the idea of VR. They had sort of a proof of concept. He's like, I like it. Go run with it. And the story is actually kind of meta in this way. Here's the thing. I did the best that I can, listener, to try to understand the story of this game, the preceding games. It is a fucking mess. Yeah. It is an absolute mess. But from the best that I can do, the game was made as they called it a Freddy Fazbear virtual experience. Okay. So the premise was it was produced by Fazbear Entertainment. This is the conglomerate in charge of Freddy Fazbear and all the various locations with the animatronics, et cetera, et cetera. The goal was to improve its public image after a bunch of lawsuits and issues at their locations, which we were made aware of in the video games.
Yes. We were plaintiffs.
We were plaintiffs
in these lawsuits.
Now it turns out that Fazbear Entertainment commissioned an unknown indie development studio to make video games based on the rumors of all the goings on at the Fazbear Entertainment companies.
Wow.
To delegitimize the rumors themselves. So Fazbear Entertainment, as their board of directors is meeting, and they're like, lots of people are dying here. Lots of them.
Yeah.
What do we do to get ahead of this? Let's commission a game development studio to make the 7 preceding games, which are now canon as video games that Fazbear Entertainment have made.
So in the world of Freddy Fazbear,
yes,
these games exist within that world.
Yes, and they were commissioned by Fazbear Entertainment to somehow delegitimize the rumors of
it's so extreme,
yes,
it has to be fake.
Yes.
Could you believe this would ever happen?
Or maybe it's like the only reason the rumors exist are because of these games, but they never actually happened. Yeah, they're really gaslighting them.
Wow.
Still don't fully understand what that word means.
Nope, me neither.
I don't think I ever will.
Nope, I'm not going to try.
So they cut ties with the original game development company, and then they made this one.
So meta.
It's seriously, it's like, what the fuck is going on? To make this virtual experience that would discredit all the rumors. But in the virtual experience, quote unquote, there are these audio logs that you can find, which are developer commentary in meetings about the virtual game that they're making.
Fuck's sakes.
Fucking wild.
Yeah, this is a lot.
And
it's so dense, like Philip Seymour Hoffman's Ghost.
The most dense ghost of all time.
The most dense ghost.
No doubts about it.
No. Well, one person has doubts.
Meryl. Our favorite game of all time.
The Doubts video game.
Doubts video game.
Press A to have doubts.
Press A to have doubts. I picture that being, God, this is a deep cut from early on in the podcast, but I picture that being the same graphics as like Lee Carvalho's putting challenge.
Yes, 100%. I see it's like Oregon Trail.
Yes.
Where she's like she's in a cabin. She's like doubts. It's like you were correct in having doubts, or you were incorrect.
What about the idea that there's like asymmetric multiplayer where one of you plays as Meryl Streep and the other plays as Philip Seymour Hoffman?
Yes.
We're talking about the movie Doubt.
Yeah. This is an incredibly famous movie.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is like, press A to give kids wine.
Yeah.
Like
Hey, do you want some wine? Okay. She's like, doubts.
Doubts. You're the score meter's going up for how often you're like tapping the doubt
We
button.
need to have more doubts. Does anyone find that interesting other than us? Does anyone talk about the movie Doubt?
If one person says yes, it's worth it.
If nobody says yes, we're still going to do it. This is not dependent on you. I just find this to be anyone that's been listening since the beginning as a constant runner. I don't know, 50 times we brought up the movie Doubt.
Schindler's List comes up
Schindler's List comes up quite a bit. Sophie's Choice.
Sophie's Choice.
Yeah,
yes.
Sophie's Choice.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's Dense Ghost is another one. Jesus Christ.
Wow.
So speaking of dense ghosts, and yes, this actually does have to do with more of the story of this game. There was apparently bad code which was uploaded from one of the animatronics circuit boards, which corrupted the code of the video game. The bad code was from, say it with me, Glitch Trap, the animatronic that's like a bunny rabbit, which is basically the digital ghost of William Afton, which is Fazbear's co-founding member and serial killer.
What? It is so funny that we got into this really dense Philip Seymour Hoffman style ghost type thing. And I was like, oh, it's so meta, it's so weird. And then you're like, all of a sudden you're like, an animatronic bear kind of broke the code of the, okay, no. Now I'm out all of a sudden.
Apparently we're not the weirdest ones in the room right now. Jesus Christ.
After watching the movie Doubt, and we're like sitting there like, oh my God, they're talking to us. Oh my God.
So that's the best that I could do to piece this together. I'm sure there's some 4-year-old screaming at the thing like, that's actually not what happened. If you paid attention in Freddy Fazbear number 7.
Is that what you think our listeners sound like?
Most of them.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit like, not as, like, just like, it's like, actually, you know what? It's so funny that I think it's more like calm. I think they're more just like, they're like condescending.
Joe Griffin, it's nice to meet you. No, Joe seems like
thanks for writing in, Joe.
Yeah. So there are 4 endings to this game. I'm going to go through them.
How are there 4? Okay, can I guess?
Yes.
Death.
Oh, well, that's probably the 5th ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's with us all. It's always one of the options at all times. Escape?
Not really.
How is it one of them not escape? Take over ownership? Start a mutiny with the... You and I don't know. Should we hurt each other or should hurt them? And we all just march in together.
There are a couple endings
unionize
where you basically join the animatronics.
No way.
Here they are. Ending 1. Yeah. You beat all 39 minigames, and then you play the last game called Pizza Party.
39 minigames?
There's 40 minigames.
Oh my God.
You enter a room, Glitch Trap is there, gesturing you to follow him behind a curtain. Then the player appears on stage as Freddy, which implies that you, the player, were stuffed into Freddy Fazbear, just like the kids who were murdered in the first one.
That's great.
The second ending, if the player follows the tape's instructions, so the hidden tapes, like the audio logs in the game, and this is where I got to be honest. I read all the endings, and I still don't know what they mean. Cool. So I can't even go through the meanings of all them. You're
just gonna stop now?
I have to.
Really?
I seriously read through them, and I couldn't even summarize them for you. The first one was as far as I got.
Okay, you become Freddy Fazbear.
You become Freddy Fazbear. There was another one where it turns out as the player character or the beta tester, and you allow Glitch Trap to take over your body basically.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
And then it's a fucking mess.
Yeah.
It's an absolute mess.
It's like the part of the appeal in the first one has to be its simplicity.
Yes.
You're taking over this thing. You walk in, you're new. Oh my God, they're alive.
Yeah.
Right. Simple enough. And then by number 8, they're like, explain why they're alive. And it's like, no, don't. We don't always need to know why.
100%.
Most often, it ruins it.
Well, what do we talk about all the time with Assassin's Creed?
Yes.
Great concept. And then they're like, what if we got this way more complicated? I don't want that.
Let's go back to the office building and reprimand you on your, introduction.
I know you've liked staring out on the horizon as the Roman Colosseum is in your peripherals. Yes. Now the light of the old Roman sun is glaring in your eyes, but what about LEDs and a stark white room?
Filling out paperwork and delivering it to another floor. Get out of here.
Fucking terrible. So the mini games themselves are based on previous games. They take influence from the previous Five Nights at Freddy's games. So some of them are basically like the first game itself, but contained in a mini game.
Cool.
One of our concerns with the first game was how simple it was.
Right.
So this is like, that's like one of 40 games. There's other games where you have to like go on patrol, shut doors, fix vents, which I'm really not looking forward to because you're probably crawling in them. Yep. As Andrew kind of like
I did a mimic of pulling a head out, just like Mortuary Assistant. The bald ghoul.
The bald ghoul.
Let me play with you. Gotta go.
The bald ghoul was the best ghoul by far.
Best ghoul best villain, best character we've had in Retrograde so far.
Yeah,
bald ghoul.
Bald ghoul. Give us more of the bald ghoul. I want a version of the Mortuary Assistant. We kind of talked about this where we play as the bald ghoul.
Yes. Oh, that would be so much fun. I love the idea that when you get to do, like, you get to play as the villain.
Yeah.
Remember we played, what was it, Jason?
Well,
Friday the 13th.
Yes, Friday the 13th, and then there's also Dead by Daylight is another.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was so much fun where you get to play as the villain because you're like, it really changes your whole mindset of like, what am I supposed to do here?
That asymmetric multiplayer, you have the moves of like, disappearing and reappearing and teleporting and this and
so
that.
Much fun.
But give me that with like a House of Horrors game like the Mortuary Assistant. I would love that.
Yeah.
Other games in this, like repairing the animatronics as well. Typically when you lose, the punishment is a jump scare, which sucks. That's like golfing. Where it's like,
how's it like golfing now?
Well, when you hit a bad shot in golfing, the punishment should be your score goes down. But the real punishment is now go traipse about in the tall grass looking for your ball for 10 minutes.
Yes.
Hate that.
Well, actually, the irony is your score goes up, Mikey.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Sorry. Let me explain golf to you for a second.
Okay.
No, I just did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The score goes up.
Oh,
bad is up.
I thought, so I'm actually really good at golf.
Because why?
Everyone's like, your score's so low. And I'm like, fuck you.
Telling everyone, get fucked.
Fuck you.
Like, no one invited me back. That was so.
But here's the other thing:
is
I didn't realize that at the end of each hole, the ball had to end up in the hole.
Oh.
I just figured you're like, I'm good. How many shots did I take? 3, and then I couldn't find my ball. I'm good.
Spiritually, I feel like I'm finished. I feel complete.
I identify as a person who's finished with this golf hole. What's wrong with that? What if I identify as a dolphin, Andrew? What are you going to call me then? A dolphin?
The marshals, driving behind you guys like, here he comes. Cancel culture. Am I right?
Be calling someone a dolphin, you know what I mean?
Oh my goodness.
So here's Sophie's choice in general. In general?
In general.
Here's the thing. If you're given the choice between any of the Five Nights at Freddy's games to play, chances are you're going to want to play this one. And here's why. Reception of this game is actually the highest of any of the Five Nights at Freddy's games. Number 1, 78%. I think that's a little high, but I understand as a pioneer in kind of the House of Horrors genre.
Yeah, and if it was the first one, you had nothing to compare it to.
Exactly.
I
do get. Number 2, 62%. Number
Yikes.
3, 68%. Number 4, 51%.
Oh my God,
Number 5, 62%. Number 6 and 7 were kind of offshoots, so it's there weren't any amalgamated reviews.
Okay.
Number 8, which is this game, 80%.
Wow.
In VR, I think it just lends itself nicely. Number 9, which was the next game called Security Breach, was an AR game, augmented reality. So you use it with your phone and everything. And that score went down to about a 64%. So it seems like this is actually the one that we want to go with.
Wow. We're really swinging high. We're giving Freddy his full opportunity.
I think so. And his legacy. Do we have a little bit of time to talk about the Freddy legacy?
Of course we
I think we do.
Of course we do.
So there was originally supposed to be a Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
Well, there kind of was, right?
Oh, was there?
Yeah, Nick Cage made an off-brand.
Oh, yes.
Right.
But that wasn't actually Five Nights at Freddy's.
No, it is not the IP that we've come to love.
What was that one called again?
It's like 3 Nights at Chucky's or something like that. Like,
it's
something close.
It looks terrible, but I also really want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
The deal was originally inked with Roy Lee, the same guy who inked a deal for Poppy Playtime, and allegedly or apparently still has the rights to that movie. So we may see that. By the way, a lot of positive feedback about the Poppy Playtime episode, and a lot of people telling me that they have bought their kids.
Fuzzy Wuggy or what? Fuzzy Wuzzy?
Huggy
Wuggy. We knew we'd get there close.
Every person I know.
Fuggy Wuggy. What was going on in my brain there? Why would it be called Fuggy Wuggy?
Well, fuck me, luck me.
Oh my God. Jesus.
Don't buy that
It looks
doll for
like
your
that and it's weirdly sexual?
It's the exact same. same mouth, same makeup, but no teeth.
Oh no.
Yeah, a lot of people buying Huggy Wuggies for their kids.
Mikey, I actually went to the store today to go like, I'm going to get him a Huggy Wuggy. And they'd sold out.
Oh no!
But I was going to bring you one, and I was going to give it to you on the podcast, which you've done for me so many times.
Look what happens. We release one episode. The next couple days, sold out across Canada.
They immediately go to the store and like, I'm here for the Retrograde podcast doll.
Dolls with us, just as many teeth as Huggy Wuggy.
You and I plushie versions from like our logo. I think those would sell really well.
I do, but I also think they'd be horrifying.
I think
we
they'd be
should do
adorable.
that, but if you open up our heads, teeth.
Teeth? Yeah, teeth. It's just marbles dice. They're always wet. What the hell?
Yeah, I'm always sweating under the armpits. If you pick me up, you're like,
I just put it in the dryer. Why is it wet again?
Here's behind the scenes. I usually have back sweat during these recordings.
This is like you mentioned this last week with Tiger Woods and Shaq.
Yeah.
You're like, why does anyone want that?
The new technological shift. So the movie didn't actually come out, but Roy Lee, same guy who had Poppy Playtime,
collecting IP.
There was a really interesting story about Cawthorn and how he made a game specifically so that it could be streamed and raise money for St. Jude's Medical Center.
Oh.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Mark Plyer and a couple other YouTubers played through the game. They basically had to search through this horror game and find donation amounts. And if they found all of them, up to 500,000, Cawthorn would donate that to St. Jude's. It turns out what?
Or they didn't.
Yeah, that's always the thing, right? I always find that on like Celebrity Jeopardy or something. It's like, oh, sorry, you've lost all the money we were going to donate. This is on you.
Yeah. It could have been 500. We only got 2, so they just like take $300,000 off the table. Well, sorry guys, maybe next year.
I'm going to snort this up this weekend.
Sorry, children. This wing's closing. This like, oh. We're going to die.
This wing's closing so I can fly high on my wings. Thank you very much for getting those answers wrong. But here's something that happened later, and I can't tell if these two stories are related, because apparently, I couldn't find a citation for it, but apparently Cawthorn donated all $500,000 to St. Jude's. However, later it came out his history of public donation. Like it's all public record, the donations that he made. Turns out, they were, and I don't know if this was the $500,000 or if this was just his own personal stuff, but all the donations that he made were made public, and they were all, with one exception, to Republican candidates, including Donald Trump. And he comes out and says, yes, I'm a Republican. This is what I donated.
The real horror story.
The real horror story. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And apparently, he came out and he said, as a result of this going public, I've been doxxed. My life has been threatened, this and that. And he actually retired from game development as a result of all this. So, I don't think just because you're a Republican, it makes you a bad person. Some Republicans are there. But yeah, I mean, in this case, I don't know that it warranted him getting doxxed and his life being threatened and all that stuff. But look, you want to make fun of him, now you don't get his games, unfortunately. But it seems like what he's done now is actually helped promote independent development of games based around the Five Nights at Freddy's license, and he's kind of like going behind those to kind of push them up a little bit.
Well, based on number 8's weird, dense backstory,
yes,
Seymour Hoffman, rest in peace, is like, it's who is playing this game and going like, man, what's Birdie all about? I'd really like to know more about Birdie.
Yeah.
Like the kind of like really?
Glitch Trap. Tell me more.
Aren't we done with this? Didn't we do this to like the nth degree, and like watching these action movies and going like, what the third guy? What was his story?
Yes, exactly.
Like, oh my God.
You lose the thread a little bit.
You do.
And you realize though that if you're not putting out new games, then the merchandising dollars stop coming in. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. And this is like, any toy industry in the 80s and 90s and 80s and 90s specifically, you would like create a cartoon so that you could sell toys. Like G.I. Joe was made so they could sell toys.
Absolutely.
Transformers, same thing. He-Man. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles wasn't made so that they could sell toys, but it started to be influenced by the ability to sell toys.
It was made into a TV show so it could sell toys. It was a comic book originally.
Exactly. A very dark comic book.
Incredibly dark.
Incredibly dark. Which we've talked about actually in our Shredder's Revenge episode too. So he retired from game development. What will happen with the future of Five Nights at Freddy's? Who knows? But what we do know is that we're about to find out what it's like in the depths of hell, I think.
I guess so. It's now dawning on me how horrible this is going to be. Not only because Five Nights at Freddy's, just as if you just told us we're playing on the computer, it's just gotten 8 times scarier because now it's number 8 and it's the best game of the series and they actually like it. That would be rough enough. To do this also with our first VR game
I know,
is
Andrew. I know.
really asking for it.
I've been thinking about this all month and I'm dreading it. Like we said, gameplay is going to go up on YouTube. So just search the Retrograde podcast on YouTube. And I would also recommend going to our Patreon, patreon.com/retrograde podcast for all other gameplay segments that we posted, plus some bonus episodes that we've done. We read some creepypasta stories recently. Those have been met fairly well from our patrons there. So we appreciated that. So if you're going to join us there, fantastic. Otherwise, we will see you on the other side of the gameplay in 2 shakes of a teddy bear's tail.
God, this sucks.
Just a reminder that you can now find our gameplay segments where we play through a portion of today's game and provide video commentary while doing it over on our Patreon, patreon.com/the Podcast. Join the Mushroom Club for $5 US per month for access to all the gameplay, plus 2 to 4 bonus episodes per month where we do things like character drafts, top 10 lists, and even take some suggestions from our community. So show some support to the podcast by joining the Mushroom Club at patreon.com/the Podcast for access to bonus content and all of our gameplay segments. We'll see you guys on the other side.
And welcome back to the Retrograde.
Andrew, there are times in my life when you question how you got yourself into a certain situation.
Constantly, yes.
And for me, how did I end up back at Freddy Fazbear's?
Here I am again, face to face
with Freddy
himself. It is the Grand Theft Auto meme. It's like, shit, here I go again. I could just feel myself parking in the parking lot at the strip mall probably and walking in going, here we go again.
What are we doing?
How did I end up here?
You know what? Of games that we've played on this podcast, and we'll get into like the what happened. By the way, like we said, gameplay is available for free right now on our YouTube channel, and that was some of the most fun that we've had playing a game. That was fucking wild.
VR just changes.
It changes everything.
Changes it. Changes us. We're changed.
I'm a changed man.
I'm not gonna lie. There's a moment there where Mikey was like trying the audio and just making sure. There's always a couple seconds before we start. And you and I just both had 1,000-yard stares. Like we had just left battle. Like we're just like, I'm just trying to get back to my sweetheart. That's all I'm trying to do.
If you're paying attention, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll notice at the end of each of these, we've had a beer. We got to calm the nerves down. You just there's no other option.
We've had to have a drink after every one because our heart is racing. Mikey, I guess we should just talk about it. I thought you were gonna have another heart attack today, and I'm sorry, we're joking because he's sitting here, he's doing fine and stuff like that. But there is a moment during the gameplay that, you're doing the stuff you normally do. You're cursing, you're sweating, your hand was shaking so much and the only reason you know that is because the controller is a hand, and the hand looked like you were like a Parkinson's victim. Jesus.
The shadow of your hands it was baiting me out so hard because I didn't know if you as the viewer were able to see the outline of my hand in the gameplay. And I looked and I'm like, my hand was shaking. I could see it in my handset.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, no, Mikey, I can see that. I'm like, stop fucking baiting me out like this, Freddy.
So that's all happening. That's to be expected. Those are scaredy things, right?
Yes.
And we're scaredy boys. Then Mikey starts grabbing his chest and shoulder again.
Did I do that?
Yes, you were doing this. And I was like looking off camera like, in my mind, I'm doing the thing
I don't even remember doing that.
I'm doing the thing that I'm thinking about, like the NFL with Tua and like, should he put him back in? He had a concussion. Or there was a really good moment in wrestling recently where some guy got knocked unconscious in the ring and the ref immediately calls it and gets like, even though they're on national television. And all I'm sitting here thinking, I'm on this podcast. If I let him die, it would be the most downloaded episode of all time.
You should have.
And I'm just sitting there going like, I hope he croaks right now. No, he grabs his chest and I'm getting worried. I'm like, Mikey, maybe you should take a break because it's not playing a video game. It's having a helmet. You're in the world.
You honestly worry
awful.
that, like, here's the thing. If I play VR, I mentioned this before the break. If I play VR and I have the movement on, like full movement, I get sick because it's doing something to my body where my brain is saying, I see movement, but I don't feel movement. What is happening? My brain can't follow.
Right.
Which means there's a part of your brain that believes it is in that situation.
Well, yeah, but it's like seasickness, right?
Yes.
You're moving, but the coastline's not. And you're like, or the
Right, but so here's the thing. That's when you're really moving. And or seasickness or in a car, you are actually moving.
Car sickness,
It's the thing that worries me about this is that you aren't. It's your brain thinking you are and not being able to. So if your brain believes that something is happening to you, is the danger of real physical harm as a result of these scares higher? Probably.
Has there been a VR related death? Like a VR related, not like murder or something like that, but VR related like heart attack death.
Probably.
It'd be great if we looked it up like VR death on the rise. Computer-driven mind madness. Where it's like their brain was changed, never came back. And you're like, oh, wait, what?
I felt like that was happening.
Oh,
and
my
here's
God.
the thing. When we first started playing,
Yes.
the first mini game, because this consists
Different
of
people.
40 mini games.
Yeah.
To call it 40 mini games is a little bit, it's
A lie.
It's a little bit of a lie because it's more, I think there's 5 or 6 different types of mini games and different levels within each of those.
Okay, it seems like so you can play Five Nights at Freddy's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Basically, yeah.
And inside of that, there are 4 levels of each one.
Yes.
But so really, it's like saying there are 8 mini games.
Yeah.
And then there are 4
or
levels
5
to
of
each
each of
mini
them.
game
Yeah, yeah.
because it seems like we've only played 2 Five Nights at Freddy's, that each game had its own type of thing.
Yes, I know, but I know more of them did have that, like you're in a security room and you're just following. But there were other things that were introduced, and this kind of picked the most interesting ones. So when we started off and played the quote unquote Five Nights at Freddy's 1, you're in the security room. It was very similar to what we played in number 1,
Incredibly
with the
similar.
exception of, and this threw us off when we played Five Nights at Freddy's 1. There are 3D graphics.
Yep.
They were 2D in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. You reach out to touch different things as you go.
Yeah.
But that game sucks. That process of you're in the security room, you're checking the cameras, you're using the lights, you're closing the doors is so boring. And you feel like there's such a limited amount of control that you have that I'm frustrated as much as I am scared.
Yeah.
And that's not a good feeling.
Yes. I'm horny as much as I am scared.
That is a given all the time.
All the
Andrew.
time. Yeah.
Right now, why do you think I'm sitting with my legs crossed?
Because it feels good.
Against my hard way of living.
The problem is, what my problem was 2 years ago is my problem is today, is that Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is a bad...
It's a bad game.
It's a bad game.
It's a bad game.
You sit there and you wait for death, which really is a nice allegory for life. But is it, you sit there and there's nothing you can do. You close the doors, you close the lights, you watch the cameras. And so like, you're watching the cameras to see that, oh, he's coming up the right side, he's coming up the left side. But much like the old game, they're not in motion.
Right.
Because it's happening in the dark. And when you turn on the light, it's, I'm here. Oh, okay.
But they are sometimes in motion when you turn the lights on. Because if you haven't played a Five Nights at Freddy's game,
oh, thank you. Yes, please.
You're in a security office. Yeah. The way you know the animatronics are moving is that you have access to a variety of security cameras. You have to switch between each of them.
Right.
And as you switch, you'll see that from the last time you put that camera on, there's now a animatronic there.
There or in the window, like approaching.
Yeah. You kind of follow the map, which shows where each of the cameras are. And you're like, okay, this guy's over here, but this person on the right side is closer to me. Yeah. So I got to watch like where they're going.
Only 2 doors.
Only 2 doors. And the only way to protect yourself is by closing the door. But doing so drains your battery more. If you run out of battery, you die, which I found out the hard way.
Catch-22.
A little bit of a catch-22, but here's the shitty thing. The speed at which the animals approach you and the rate at which or when they end up showing up at your door seems indecipherable.
No, yeah.
And that process to me is like, as a gamer, I want to play a game that I enjoy. I want to be able to see the pattern, be like, oh, I see where this is going, and then react to it. There's none of that in the first one. But we then tried some of the other mini games.
Yeah. My biggest issue with the first one is that it makes no logical sense.
Yes. Yeah.
It just doesn't. So the animals are coming to get you. Okay, I get that. That's totally fine. But if I close the door, they'll just kind of go on by.
Right.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like there's parts of it, they're just like, wait, why? Like I almost have a trouble. You know, they tell me how to defend myself, and I just go like, yeah, but that doesn't make any sense, and that's my issue. You know?
And also, it's logic in terms of the reasoning, but also logic in terms of the when and where of it all.
Yeah.
And that's the most frustrating thing to me. If there's a game, I want to know how to beat it. And I know that there are patterns that you can follow, and like that's how you beat those levels, but having to memorize them of like, oh, at X time, this person tends to leave their warehouse, so you have to like catch them in it. But it doesn't always like freeze them in place the way that you would expect.
Yeah, whatever. We're harping on it.
So we spent the first 10, 15 minutes playing that game. We swapped out between yourself and myself. And I was like, okay, turns out Five Nights at Freddy's still sucks. But then we found the other mini games.
Yes.
And I had so much fun with them. The one I played was you have to fix the animatronic. And if you make a mistake, the animatronic jumps out at you. Now, when I say fix the animatronic, it's sitting in front of you and it's big. You have to reach up to grab things. You have to follow these instructions. The first thing we did, it was one of the bears, I think, with a guitar.
Banjo. Yeah, guitar.
And you had to like retune the guitar and figure out what was going wrong. So it's like, okay, in order.
So sorry to interrupt you. It was a rabbit.
Oh, was it a rabbit?
Because it had big ears up the top.
Oh, right. You're right.
Like a little lapinu.
Oh, hello. Hi, I'm a little rabbit playing guitar.
Except don't make a mistake.
Oh no, Andrew.
There you go. That's
so
how it's like.
The guy on the speaker is giving you the directions on what to do.
Also, that guy's a coward. So just saying.
Well, he won't do it himself.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, hey, I've locked the door from both sides. I just want to let you know. Take off the eye. But yeah, sorry, continue.
So the instruction they give, and this was, you have to pay attention. He says, take out his left eye first, like TLC, which is what happened. So I reach up and I grab the eye on my left.
Yes.
I pull it out. Big mistake because
he eats your face.
He eats your face. So
very scary.
It was scary because it's like Operation.
It is like Operation, and it turns black for half a second before it goes.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's scary. God. Okay, great. And then Mikey proceeds to crush that level because he made the mistake once. He learned his lesson. He's very scared. He wet himself, and he just made a decision and gone, I'm not going to wet myself ever again.
Hey. Camera was going waist up, Andrew.
Oh, he didn't wet himself then. He shit himself.
Okay. Well, so we do have smell-o-vision on, so they were going to know that no matter what.
So he does it, and you crush it, and it's little like press the buttons together to get the jaw, and the face mask opens, and it does that really good thing of like, is it good or bad? Like, oh,
yeah,
okay,
it clicks, and you're like, Gah.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about the Sims Squad, like, why did we program them to scream? And you proceeded to change out and calibrate his musical notes, tune his musical notes, and then put everything back together in the right order.
It is, and here's the thing about it being VR is you forget that it's a screen. Like in my mind, I'm actually reaching out and interacting with this thing.
Yes.
So when that thing jumps out at you, it's that much more scary. The
so
thing
scary.
you're working on turns against you.
It's not only that you have nowhere else to look, your ears are completely only in this world.
Yeah.
It's a sensory experience.
Yeah. And the thing that you reaching out to like press both buttons under his jaw, for example, are also the things that you would use to defend yourself. So you're like clicking, you're like kind of like putting, I kept finding I was putting my hands up as if to say, no, please, daddy, don't hurt me no more.
You did do this thing where you were vacillating between hands up like you're going to box and hands up like you are offering up your, like, no, please.
Here, take my wrists first.
Yes,
Don't make me
my
hurt.
purse is right here. Please take it. Like your Joe Cool is attacking you.
Yeah, Joe Chill.
Joe Chill. Sorry. Joe Cool's his brother.
Yeah. Wait, no, that's not how names work.
Yeah, that's how names work.
That's how it is.
Yeah. In the Chill Cool family, it is.
In the Chill Cool family.
They're all named Joe.
It's like Yao Ming. Yeah. Joe is the last name.
Joe is the last name. Yeah, it's like Yao Ming. Yeah, exactly. Ichiro Suzuki, a couple of them, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Jeremy Lin? No, it didn't say Jeremy on his back.
No, it said Lin.
Lin.
Now I think you're okay.
Well,
interesting. Interesting. Okay. Listener, take that for what you will. So we did that one.
And then you, bravest man I've ever seen in my life.
Mikey, thank you. That's very, very kind.
Because I thought the one that I really don't want to play, the one mini game I would not play was the duct repair.
The duct repair, yeah, vent repair.
Vent repair, sorry,
and it was, you know what? I was only brazen because you did the repair one. And what I liked about it was, okay, there is a solution. What is so frustrating about Five Nights at Freddy 1 is that it just felt like inevitable that you're going to die. Yes, come at me. I know, whatever. But yours was, there is an answer to this. And so I was like, well, okay, sorry.
No, here's the thing. Sure, come at us. Sure, there's a solution, whatever. But guess what? First, second, third times playing the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 version, we still didn't know what that solution was.
Yeah.
The game design of the other mini games that we played was so much more reasonable. Yeah. It was, I lost once, but I knew it was a mistake I made. I knew why I knew what I did to mess up, and I got it the second time. You nailed the vent on your first one.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I did. And you know what? I took my time. Like, I definitely took my time. But essentially is that you are in a event. You're in a duct. And you're standing, and you have 3 ducts around you and a closed gate behind you.
You're sort of at like a gateway to 3 other ducts which are malfunctioning.
A hub or something.
Yeah.
And so slowly and surely, one gate opens, and you try and fix what's going on, and then second gate will open, and now you have 2 gates open, and then a third one will happen. What they don't tell you at Vent Repair School is that there's an animatronic that is bloodthirsty and in the vents and trying to kill you at all times.
Yeah.
But thank God, he's very scared of eye contact and lights.
So he's a millennial.
He's like, eat my ass. And I'm like, no, get out of here, millennials. Get off your phone, TikToks.
But if you are on TikTok, Retrograde Pod.
Yeah, we're all on TikTok. I love that thing. It's like TikTok. It's like I know more millennials that are on TikTok.
100%. 100%.
They're on something cool they haven't even told us about yet.
Yeah.
So this crazy looking rabbit, wow, it goes back to rabbits again, is trying to kill you. And he's
I think he was a mouse.
Oh, mouse. That would make a lot more sense.
Look at us correcting our animatronic interpretations.
We're trying to be respectful of this.
Animatronic interpretation sounds like something that is way more sophisticated than we are.
It's a huge book. Yeah. Huge book with like design, like laser design on the front. I don't want to read that. So the idea is that you can work on stuff, but if you hear that mouse coming from other ones, you have to look over and then you'll back off and kind of thing. And so it's really just it's really what is great about these video games. What was good about Mortuary Assistant is that you have to do certain things, pay attention, but at the same time, also your head has to be somewhere else at the same time. And it was a lot of fun, especially when 3 of them were open. And I can only imagine maybe up to 6 of them can be open in later levels. Is that you're like, okay, there's a sequence of colors that I need to remember because I need to press the button, but also, is he on the right? No? Is he okay? No, click.
Yes.
Click. And
there was a lot of like kind of like what you almost joked about in the beginning. You're like, we talked about being in the moment and having to face your fears, but look what I can do. And you like look towards one way and deal with something off screen with your hand. And you made a joke of it, but that's what this required. There were so many moments where you're reaching up to get a switch in the vent and you have to look down the other vent while you're holding on to the switch to make sure that Mr. Mouse doesn't come towards you.
Yes. You know what it really is selling the technology so well, especially the level I did, because it's not only giving you the perspective of like, I'm pressing things, looking simultaneously, and the sound is giving me a perspective of where it's coming from.
Yes.
Whoa, that is cool.
Can we just say as a blanket statement, VR is flat out underrated.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
It is.
The Quest 2, which we were playing on, I've played some games that are just, and I've talked about them on the podcast before. In particular, this is not news to anyone who's heard about VR, but Half-Life Alyx is incredible for a lot of the same reasons. The number of times, and developers won't be able to get away with this forever, but the number of times the solution to a problem comes just by simply realizing that you're not inhibited the way that you would be with a controller. Like the example I always give with Half-Life Alyx is I had to get to the other side of like a door or something. So I broke down the window, or I smashed the window with the gun in my hand. I was like, oh, I guess I can do that. And then I poked my head through the window to unlock the door from the other side.
Crazy.
Like, right. That's a thing you can do, but it doesn't translate to a controller. And in this way, you're probably thinking, like, if you have a controller, you're like, well, how am I supposed to work on this and change my viewpoint at the same time? I have to be able to look at the thing I'm working at. Not so when you're in VR. And it makes it so much more immersive.
You know, I will say, though, like, we played for whatever, an hour, and you're inside of it, and my eyes are still like coming back and stuff. Like, you're still like, not even that. You feel like a malaise where you're like, I'm not, it's like ethereal. Like you're not in the right world anymore. Yeah. If you had to play that for an hour consistent, you'd be kind of beside yourself. If I have to work in a fucking metaverse where I got to put this for 8 hours a day, I think my brain might melt and come out of my ears.
I think we'll just be a different evolutionary species at that point.
Isn't it kind of, now, okay, this is Andrew's rant corner. Isn't it kind of weird that for sci-fi movies for the last like 70 years, they've been going like, this is what's going to happen. And we're like, I know. And now it's like 22, like, they were so right.
They were so right.
Oh, God, we didn't even try and stop it. No. We accepted it. Yeah, please.
Give me more. As long as you put it in my pocket for free, I'll take it. 100%.
Look at all these non-sentient robots just like with screens blared into their eyes and they're like, and you're like, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Oh,
cool.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Come on, robot overlords. Let's go.
That's it. Just get us through this hump. Like just make it so that we don't have to care anymore. Like the option of going outside has been taken away from us.
One way or another, it will be. Whether the environment wants us to be outside.
Yes, exactly. Weather doesn't want us inside or outside, and the animatronics don't want us inside. So, what was your favorite of the mini games that we tried?
I really liked the vent repair. I know I'm a little biased because I did it, but it felt like it was testing everything inside of me.
Yeah.
I was scared, but it was kind of giving, what I don't like about the number one, and I'm sorry to harp on it all the time, is that this one is going, it's scary, but only because you fucked up.
Yeah.
Okay, that amount of perspective and like I can put on myself. Okay, cool. That's totally fine. Plus, it's like, it wasn't hard. Like the puzzles were totally
Sure.
fine. It was like, what do I do? Oh, this is okay.
There were a little bit of nonsensical things. Like we found that the
yeah.
switch, you would flip a switch and nothing would happen, and then you'd go back to it later and flip it and something would.
Yeah.
Like those kinds of things. Maybe it was just a limit of the interface. I'm not sure, but
Right, and that's the thing, because if it was an actual video game with a controller, you'd be like, this is so simple, it's stupid.
Yes, yeah.
But the fact that you're actually in the world and you're like, oh, I need to look in the duct. Oh, I can look in the duct. Color. Okay, click. Okay, that's cool. That part of it was really interesting, and I did like that it was like very achievable.
Yeah.
That monster was only getting pretty close. Actually, I will say, so one vent opens, second vent opens, third vent opens, and they are increasing amount of difficulty, but the animal could come out of any of the vents. In the third vent,
once they've been opened.
so
it gets more difficult as you go.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Once that third one was open, it was the quietest.
Uh-huh.
So you really had to pay attention all of a sudden, because he got pretty close because I could barely hear him. And I just thought that was so cool. What was yours?
Honestly, I loved the animatronic repair. Another thing it comes down to, it's like, oh, I can follow instructions. And I can tell, because this is a video game, they're kind of trying to trip you up with the instructions. So not only now am I getting through it without being scared, but I'm feeling proud as a result of it. And when you fail, yeah, it sucks, but you're like, you got me. That was deserved. And again, it goes back to the first one of just sucking. Like legitimately, I hate Five Nights at Freddy's 1, and I hate that security room thing. But holy shit, I'm so happy we played this.
Yeah.
Because I would have thought that the franchise was garbage up until this moment.
And based on the reviews, it was.
Yeah.
You know, like Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is kind of like a drop style roller coaster.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, heads up, now we're high. We're getting low.
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay. You can't romance me a little bit?
Yeah.
Because the roller coasters and then the other ones were like, okay, we're going to scare you, but you're going to go through. Now you're a mountain climber. You got to come up the thing or whatever. And I just think it's the difference between the two, like the selling you on the idea. If you made a wrong click and it tried to eat you, or I took my mind off of the guy on the left too long and he ate me, I'd be scared, but then I'd go, yeah. Well, shit, that's on me.
If you watch the gameplay, the number of times in the first mini game that I was just like, Andrew, I don't fucking know, like, what do I do? I'm just pressing buttons, like, what is this game expecting of me right now?
Right.
Like and that's poor game design. You as someone who's played all the Five Nights at Freddy's can explain it to me, and maybe I'll say, oh, you're right. But like, if I can't intuit it after, what's the combined amount of time we played Five Nights at Freddy for? A couple hours at least now?
Yeah, couple hours.
If I haven't intuited it yet, then that's poor game design.
And I also will say, let's go inside the logic of the actual game.
Yes.
You're a vent repair person. You are a animatronic repair person, which I can imagine there's maybe 4 left. And like the idea is that it's alive, but it needs a cue to kill you.
Yes.
Okay, I'll go with that. In this one, the first one, you're a security guard that is newly hired, and the animatronics come at life to kill you. We were barely there, and we're like, door, light, door, like, what the hell is going on? Like, that makes no sense within the world. So I'm done jumping up and down on it. But
let's, we can say our final piece with the first one if we loop it into our review. So Andrew, you want to get to our reviews? We'll do it the same way we've done it for the past few weeks. For this final week of RetroGrave that we're going to do, we've been doing it where it's the first score out of 4, rest in power. First score out of 4 is our review of the game in general. How good is this game out of 4 bits? And then the next one we give is going to be how scary was this game. So why don't you start us off, Andrew? Out of 4 bits, how good was this game?
Okay, so it's so funny that if you asked us after we played that first level, I'd be like, oh crap, back on its bullshit. VR didn't help you on this one, buddy. It made it scary, I'll give you that. But even then, I didn't like that when you lost in the first one, it went to black, and then all of a sudden a guy came at you even though it wasn't the right perspective.
Sure.
I was like, it's cheap.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the VR thing, it's kind of like 3D where it's like in the right hands, it can be really good.
Yeah.
But I can imagine how many shitty versions of that there are. And so my heart kind of sank, and I'm like, maybe this isn't going to be very good. But then the world opened up. There's a lot of lore attached to this game. There's a lot of lore that I will be the first one to admit I do not know a lot about.
Sure.
But the idea that you can repair these things and you can check out the vents of the machine and you can do all these other things, the nighttime, the dark room repair and all that kind of stuff is so cool and so well suited to VR that I had so much fun playing this game. And I actually would go back and play level 2 and level 3 until I eventually failed and pissed myself and I would not be able to play anymore. I'm in a ball. I thought it was a great game. I really did. I had a lot of fun, and the diversity in what you can do changes it compared to the last 2 games, which I also really enjoyed. I really enjoyed Merchant's Assistant. I really enjoyed Poppy's Playtime. Slender, you can sit in the side for a second. they are on rails. They are one thing. And if you don't like that one thing, you don't like Huggy Wuggy trying to attack you, you don't like the bald ghoul, who's the best. He's our bro. But if you don't like those things, you're stuck. You know what I mean? In this one, there's diversity and you can try and change a few things. So even though one thing might not be for you, like Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is not for us, there's so many more that could be doing it. I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 4. I loved this.
So 3.5 out of 4 makes that your highest reviewed of the Retrograde games.
I'm glad to hear that because that makes sense in my mind.
So I agree with you, man. I think that, look, VR is still, it's not a proof of concept. The concept has been proven, but the number of properties out there are still somewhat limited. And when it comes to horror games, the reason why I love this one is because part of VR as it stands right now is these kind of like bite-sized experiences that you can like show, like, I think, man, next time I have my family over, I want to put this game on and just be like, guys, let's have some fun. Cast to the TV, one person experiencing it. Let's fucking go.
Yes.
Yes. And I hate horror games and I hate the process of getting scared. I don't think I'll ever play the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 version of that minigame. I'll probably never do that again. But I saw the vent repair and I was like, that looks like fun.
Yeah.
I did the animatronic rebuild. That was fun. The darker, all these things, I'm like, man, I do want to explore that in spite of the fact that I might get scared. It was good enough to bring, like, pop-out scares are my least favorite things in the world. And yet, I'm willing to put that aside to play more of this game. That's a really big deal.
Yep.
I think it was more fun than Slender for sure. I think it was much more fun than Poppy Playtime. I actually think in terms of the experience itself, it was more fun than Mortuary Assistant as well. I'm giving this one a 3.5 out of 4 too.
There we go. For a 7 out of 8 for Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted.
Yeah.
That's great. I love this game. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it only helps us. Like, Mikey, you know, you and I are very honest on this podcast all the time. Driving games, fighting games, maybe not for us, but there are versions of this that emerge through kind of the muck and go like, hey, it's a good game no matter what.
If nothing else, you can recognize quality, even though it may not be your favorite game.
100%. 100%. And so I'm so glad that we're recognizing that because that was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so for scariness.
Yeah, your score out of 4 bits.
The VR just changes the game. Like, I hate to say that I don't even know how scary the game would actually have to be for us to not find it scary because we're in VR. I think this is it's just an assault on the senses. Like there's no escaping it. Now, I will say, even though the first version is my least, Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is my least favorite version, I find it to be the scariest.
It was by far the scariest.
Because there's inevitability to it that is very scary, whereas in yours or mine, it's very much on my own stake about whether I get scared or not. Right. It's up to my own abilities. Now, I like that. And I'm much more scared. And it was like kind of what I really liked about Poppy's Playtime is that it's inevitable. He's chasing you. Yes. You got to figure this out. That's scary to me. The inevitability scares me very much. So I will say 4 and the vent repair and the calibration are not the scariest versions.
I agree.
To me. But the first one's very scary. So I'm going to give it a middling score of 3 out of 4.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I talk a lot of shit about the first one, but if you just want to get scared, that's the best one by far.
Yeah.
There's something about, I mean, there's like a tension to having the animatronic right in front of you as you reach into its mouth to like press a button.
Yes.
Thinking like it's like you said, Operation or any of those kids get like the alligator where you have to pull its teeth out kind of thing. Don't wake daddy. Something like that. It's like the anticipation is there, but don't wake daddy.
Don't wake daddy.
Andrew,
what's up? Is daddy here?
I don't want you to wake daddy.
What happens if daddy wakes up? What happens, Mikey?
Mikey has to go playtime.
Oh, no. Don't wake him.
Don't wake daddy.
Don't wake him. Are you crying?
No.
Jesus Christ.
Don't wake him. Mikey doesn't want to go playtime again.
I'm starting to worry about what this podcast does to you. You nearly have a heart attack, then you start sobbing.
I'm not sobbing. I'm happy because it's playtime.
You're smiling. Yes, you're smiling. Yes, it looks very natural. Very pretty smile. Oh boy. Yeah, don't wake daddy. Okay, everyone just keep this in mind at home. I hope everyone sitting at home right now is not trying to wake daddy.
Can you pass me that knife?
No, what? Why do you want a knife?
Just please pass me that knife.
No, wait, you gotta tell me what we're doing with the knife first.
Throw it at my throat.
No, I'm not gonna throw it at your throat.
Please, it's right here.
No, I'm not gonna throw it at your throat.
Please.
So what do you give it out of 4?
I'm gonna give this one also a 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Which is fine with me. I don't want scarier than that.
So right around a scare.
But this is the tough thing for me is because the way I want to play this game is not playing Five Nights at Freddy's 1.
Right.
Like that version of it, the security room one, which means it's a 3. But that first thing was the most terrified I was of all the games that we played by far. Sitting in that room and knowing that the scare was coming. But because the rest of the game that we played, all the other mini games were just kind of middling in comparison, I'm going to give this one a 3 instead of the 3.5.
But like middling in a fair way. I think they were fair scares.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially as like, I can imagine the calibration of the repair of the animatronics will get very complicated. And so you're like, what did he say? Right?
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're just waiting for that would be so scary. So yes, very, very scary game, but I think fair scary. So that's why it's kind of taking a little dock there a little bit. So 6 out of 8 for the scare score.
And that gives us a total of a 13 out of 16.
Good job.
So let's go through this, Andrew. Instead of reading some of the gamer advice or doing a test your might, aka 3 sentences to you might guess the game. Let's go over all the games that we've had in Retrograde to see which ones had the best. So we had Slender the 8 Pages. That was a total of a 3.5 for the overall gameplay and a 5 for the scares. That's a total of an 8.5.
Okay.
Deserved. That game was not that scary.
Not that scary, not that good. It's barely a game.
Poppy Playtime coming in third place. Third place with a 12. That was a 5.5 for the gameplay and a 6.5 for the scares.
These are out of 8.
Out of 8. And then coming in second place is Five Nights at Freddy's.
Wow.
So gameplay was a 7 and the scare was a 6 out of 8. So for a total of 13. Mortuary Assistant, 6.5 for the gameplay, 7.5 for the scares. That's a total of a 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting scores. This is our, I'll just say, this is our most stacked lineup we've ever had for Retrograve.
Easy. Yeah. Well, because I think we were never fully willing to jump in every week having it be a scary game.
Yeah.
You know, we did like Zombies Ate My Neighbors because it's like a quote unquote horror game, or Resident Evil 2, the original, because it's iconic. But as a month that is just meant to scare the shit out of us, we went balls out for this one.
I can't begin to describe how much Mikey and I do not enjoy this. And we do enjoy it because you guys enjoy it, and that's awesome because we love you. We love every single one of you. But it is so funny in my mind that all week I go, oh, fuck, I got to do this.
100%.
And then next week I'm like, welcome. We're doing Beer Tapper or something like that. Like, it's just like so, normal.
I'm so happy that it's over.
Yeah, are you?
I'm so happy that it's over. And I think that it was fun.
It was.
In retrospect.
It was in retrospect. We'll see. We used to do 2 months a year.
I think we have a special plan for February, actually.
Oh, we do, actually. Never mind. I'm taking it back.
It is still going to be the scariest month.
I forgot about that plan. So stick around for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be scary, but for a very different reason.
Andrew, like I said, we don't have time to do the test your might or the gamer advice. But if you want us to do some of that, if you have any questions, very specific questions based on gaming in your later ages, or just gaming in trying to live life at the same time, send us those questions. We've got a bit of a backlog, but we'll get to it as soon as we can. And then test your might, which is obviously the 3 sentences to describe the plot of a game, and we have to guess it in either 1, 2, or 3 of those sentences. You can send those to the Retrograde Podcast at gmail.com. Follow us on our socials at Retrograde Pod, at Retrograde Mikey, at Retrograde Andy.
What's up?
It's all that good stuff.
Yeah, so we promised those are coming back. Those are coming back probably even next week. But until then, also follow us at patreon.com/Retrograde Podcast.
Yes.
We've got some fun ones. And if you want a little heads up before the next Patreon episode, watch Barbarian. Watch Barbarian, because we're going to be talking about it. A big spoiler cast where we're going to get into it, because we feel it's probably been the best horror movie of the year, and we're really excited to talk about it.
Apart from Top Gun Maverick, I think it's the best movie of the year.
Ooh, wow. Okay, we'll talk
from Top Gun Maverick.
Wow, that should be an interesting discussion. So yeah, we'll do that as well, and then maybe we'll drink and drive. We'll see. Okay, we love every single one of you, and we can't wait to talk to you soon. Thank you for staying up late with us. Thank you for getting scared with us all month. We love every single one of you. My name is Andrew Bascom, and with me as always is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself,
Mikey Aaronworth.
Rest in peace, Retrograve.
Retrograve over. Daddy's coming.
Oh no, Daddy!
Want more Retrograde in your life? You can visit our website for show notes at theretrogradepod.com. Follow us on Twitter at Retrograde Mikey, at Retrograde Andy, and the podcast at Retrograde Pod.
Or Instagram at The Retrograde Podcast.
For bonus episodes, check us out at patreon.com/The Retrograde Podcast.
Send your questions and business inquiries to The Retrograde Podcast at gmail.com.
See you next week, D-pads.
Furnished by Sad Styles Productions.
This sucks.